Hi, welcome to this week's Inside Story. Today I'm joined by Graham Hay, who is the author of Let's Hear It for the Boy. He is a renowned comedy writer. So, good morning, Graham.
Good morning, Karen.
How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing well, thank you. I put my best shirt on for this interview, so
Good.
all's good.
Expecting nothing less.
You can always rely on Primark.
So, what have you been up to?
What I've been up to, lots of writing, of course. As you know, I've just about finished my second book with Kronos Publishing. I think it's just going for a final proofreading, any final amends. And now I'm just writing some promotional stuff to go with it, really. So I'm trying to get my social media on track.
Yeah, 'cause you're not very good at that, are you?
I'm rubbish, apparently. We got an email from Taryn at the publishers and it just said, "Dear Graham, your social media is crap." That's all it said.
What can I say?
I took it that my social media was crap.
Have you improved it?
I've got my new comedy blog, funny-writer.com. I'm now on Twitter and Instagram, just about to start doing those, but I've already posted my first couple of blogs, and I'm increasing my output on Facebook and just generally getting my act together, really.
So, actually, that email worked then, didn't it?
It did, worked a treat. I've been telling everybody about it.
Good. Right, your background then. You are a professional comedy writer. What's all that about?
Well, I started many years ago. Like a lot of writers, I just used to send my stuff off to the BBC and ITV. So mainly sketches for the sketch shows that were popular at the time, but never got any replies whatsoever. And then what happened was there was a guy called Russ Abbott from Russ Abbott's Madhouse, which was a massive show at the time. He was performing at Bradford Alhambra Theatre, and I thought, well, I've got no response from any of the TV companies. I'll send it direct to him because he was going to be performing at this theatre for about a week. And he obviously had nothing better to do. He opened the envelope and read my sketches and got a really nice reply from him saying, "Oh, I love these. We're going to use some of these in our next TV series, and I'll put you in touch with Barry Cryer, who was the script editor." And from then on, started asking me for more and more. And then when that series finished, I moved on to another series. And then I started working for Gruff Rhys-Jones as one of his writers. And it just went on from there, really. But those were all short comedy sketches. So it was just getting gags in as quick as possible, which, funnily enough, is one of the issues I sometimes have when I'm writing a novel. I feel the urge to put gags in all the time. Whereas you, Taryn, as my editor, you know when I'm trying to squeeze a gag in and you take it out. So that's why I like it.
Sometimes you
My funniest lines out.
do not take.
You that does it. Hey?
I don't take funniest lines out. I just take the obvious lines out, or the ones where you crowbar the joke in just because you want to use that joke. That's the difference.
That's right. And but that's, you know, on a more serious note, that's why you need a good editor, somebody you can just trust, because I would just write it exactly how I think off the top of my head. If I'm flowing sort of thing with it, I'll just do it, even though some of it might not be, you know, suitable, whatever, because I know that you, Taryn, will come back to me and say, you know, I'll take that out. It's not good. I can see why you put that in. But I just need to get it all down out of my head while I'm in the mood to do it and while I'm flowing. So you need to be able to trust an editor to see through all your imperfections when you're writing, I think.
So are you funny all the time?
Am I funny? Well, if you're watching this interview, I'm not funny all the time. But I try to be funny. I'm always thinking of jokes all the time. And before I go to bed at night, I've got a little pen and pad at the side of the bed. And I always write 2 jokes before I go to sleep. The next day, I stick them all in an envelope, and that envelope doesn't come out for about another month. And I go through them all. And if they're still making me laugh, then I will use them and pass them on to comedians or performers, whatever, to put into their act.
So you're still writing for comedians?
am I still writing for comedians? Yes. Anybody who comes to me, I tend to write. I mean, there's Mike McLean, who is also an author review. He's brilliant stand-up, and he's easy to write for, and he's got a good quality control with his gags. But a lot of the performers that I do material for are ones that aren't natural comedians, but they just want to put some light-hearted comments into their act to make them connect more with the audience. So they're not necessarily out-and-out gags, but it's just trying to get a connection between them and the audience. So that's a different sort of comedy writing, but it's you know, it's one of those things where it's quite a challenge, and when it works, it's brilliant to see somebody who's not an actual comedian getting laughs, you know, so you have to write in a particular way for them.
So do you then coach them how to actually put the line across as well, or do you just give it on and let them go?
No, if they've got the budget and the time and they're in this part of the world or whatever, I try and coach them as well. So I tell them to book in, you know, a good couple of days where they just do their act one-to-one in front of me, and I will talk them through how they're delivering that line and how they can make it better or change things around so it fits in better. So that's the ideal situation for me. There's a guy called Sean, seen that name? He was in the final of Britain's Got Talent. Sean Alexander. He's an illusionist, but he does a lot of. There's a section in his act where he does some talking to the audience and things, and he wanted, because illusion is a pretty cold thing, you know, it's just one big illusion, and then you go on to another one, and he wanted to put some sections into his act where he spoke to the audience and asked them, you know, where they were from, what they were doing, but he wanted it funny, and so he booked me. So I wrote all the comedy, went down to his house. He lives in Norwich. We had a couple of days rehearsal, went through it all, and then I left him to it, and then I went to see him while I was on tour, and it was fantastic actually, because he got loads of laughs, and he's not you know, a natural comedian, but the funny thing was, every time he used one of my lines and he got a laugh, he looked over to me in the audience, which I just thought was really funny, because nobody else knew what was going on, but he always like looked for my approval, which was good. So it's satisfying when you can actually see them doing it live, you know.
So, I mean, you have your own experience of being a stand-up.
I do. Not that I was amazing or anything, but I did do it for a number of years on the comedy clubs for probably 10 years, and then I did quite a bit of work on cruise ships doing a cabaret act. So I've done it to a decent level, but all the enjoyment for me was actually writing it. Sometimes I write a gag, give it to somebody, and they completely ruin it because it's not how it was. You know, they just do it in a different way to how you envisaged it, and it doesn't work sometimes. So it was the frustration of doing that for some performers. I'm talking to some of my friends and said, "Why don't you have a go? You should be able to do this." So it took me a long time to get decent, but I got there in the end.
You did magic as well, didn't you?
Well, it was combined, yeah. I needed some props to stand behind. That was the thing. I just didn't have the confidence to just get up and do pure stand-up, because it's just you and your material, and that's it. Whereas I thought, well, if I do some sort of mind reading or magic or something, if they don't like the comedy, they can appreciate the magic, and vice versa. So it was like a bit of a plan B, just in case they didn't like part of my act. I thought we've got something else to look at.
So how much of your own material is in your book? Because the first book, Let's Hear It For The Boy, talks about a fairly hapless and a little bit of a, how do we kindly describe the young man?
Is he a bit of a loser?
Okay, yeah.
Well, that's based on me, that bit. No, I've done lots of stand-up where I've never sort of been booed off or anything like that. Even my very first gig was okay, because I think the delivery might not have been fantastic, but the actual material was good quality, so I think people could appreciate that. But in the book, Let's Hear It For The Boy, there's certainly, he goes and does stand up at some points in the book, and so I do use actual real material that I used when I was doing stand-up, because it sort of made sense to do it, because it was a similar sort of performer. So yeah, I use quite a bit in my books that I've used in the
So
past.
you've also done writing for the people, haven't you?
For other people. Well, are you talking the stand-up, or are you talking ghostwriting?
Writing.
Ghostwriting, yeah, I have done some ghostwriting. In fact, that indirectly, that's how or why I sent my first manuscript over to you, because I'd started a novel 10 years before, done about 3 chapters, then not done anything with it, and then a friend of mine recommended. He said, "Oh, you should finish it," basically. So while I was doing that, as a comedy writer, I just got an email out of the blue from somebody asking if I could do some work for them, because they were doing this project and they were struggling with it and they needed comedy. So I gave them a quote and all this, and I ended up doing all the work for them. And then it was only afterwards, and this is one reason you should always Google who you're doing some work for, so you know who it is and what to charge and all that sort of stuff. And anyway, it turned out when I Googled this guy that he was like the #1 screenwriter in the world, and his last 4 movies had had several Oscar nominations and God knows what. I couldn't believe it. I thought I'd got the wrong person. I'd done this work for him and he was raving about it. And he said to me, he says, "If ever this becomes a West End play, will you write the comedy for it?" And I said, yeah, thinking, there's no chance of that, because I didn't think the project was that exciting or even that good. So it shows how much I know. And then it turns out this guy is mega, mega successful. And of course, I had to sign a non-disclosure agreement, which before I did the work, and I thought, he's got big ideas, this guy. Not even wondering who he was, just thought, I thought it was going to be some work that would never be published or made or whatever. And but it turned out I could have charged him $1 million. That's what I would have charged him, $1 million.
And you know for future ones, won't you?
If I'd have Googled him.
If you'd have Googled him. So note to everybody, Google who you're working for first.
Yeah. So then when I think that helped me, I got a little intro to yourself, Karen, at Kronos. Somebody just recommended you as being reputable. So shows how much they know. But so I sent my stuff off to you, and you must have seen some potential in it, unless that was like a tax loss type thing.
No, you were my sympathy book for the year. That's what it was.
Thank you, thank you, and I appreciate that.
So why rom-coms?
Do you know, I don't know really, because I'm into all sorts of other books. I like Stephen King, and I sort of like a little bit of horror, and I like fantasy books, and I like all sorts of other books. But I'm sort of always thinking visually, and I suppose ideally I'd like one of my books or some of my books eventually to become movies. So I see them as movies first, and I don't know, I've just sticking a rom-com on TV. I watched one a couple of nights ago. There's just something about rom-coms. I don't know. It's that feel-good factor. They're going to have pretty much a happy ending. So I suppose it's that really. You can put funny characters in there, so it brings out the comedy. And I like it. And I like romance movies. So I just thought, well, it'd be nice to combine them. And it just so happens that the ideas I have revolve around a relationship. Not that I'm an expert about writing about relationships, although I did used to be the agony aunt for the Daily Star newspaper.
Did you?
I don't know if you knew that.
I didn't know that.
I was a sex advice columnist.
So what's the funniest thing you ever got asked then? That's clean that we can put on here.
I don't know, but I used to get about 400 letters a month, and you'll be surprised how many men dress up in their wives' clothes, the full gear, while their wives are out. That was one of the most common things that I used to get. And I was completely innocent about all that. I had no idea. I thought it was all like a wind-up or something. But no, that was the #1 most popular problem. I got loads of letters from prisoners who've got nothing else better to do.
Did you actually reply in a sensible way, or did you do it comedic?
Well, there we are, you see, that's the point. I had to, the only replies had to be in the newspaper, so you couldn't have any communications with people outside being published. And so the editor liked the light-hearted ones because he said, "Yeah, I want you to put a little gag at the end or a little twist." So obviously, and people's problems, they're obviously taking them really seriously as they should. Couldn't always have a funny bit at the end, so I used to pick out 4 a day, and I used to pick out 2 light-hearted ones where I could put a little bit of light-hearted commentary in there and a little joke at the end, and then 2 always a helpline.
I always imagine it like a Viz.
Oh, they love a helpline.
I can just see, yeah, we won't go there. So, one of the things when you sent me the manuscript, you mentioned your mind tends to go in terms of screen, and that was one of the things that we said when I looked at the manuscript first, was that it had very, very clearly been written with a film in mind, and it was almost laid out sort of screenwriting without the Johnson's that.
Yeah.
Do you find it easier writing in terms of screenwriting rather than the novel, or is it just simply that in your head you can see it being played out?
I think it's just in my head. I mean, doing a screenplay is quite a bit different. Of course, you're cutting out all the thoughts that people have. It's just purely the scene and the dialogue. You can put little comments, but no, I just see it in my head as I'm writing it that will work visually. I suppose that's why quite a few visual moments in there. Because dialogue, it can be really funny and the situation's funny, but I actually like it when something funny happens physically. I just think that's a lot more interesting than a couple of characters talking all the time. Yeah.
So your style of writing is very sort of Nick Hornby-esque, but better, obviously.
Yeah, do you remember that was one of my strap lines, like Nick Hornby, only funny? That was what I wanted to use, and you said no.
Funny that I didn't go with that one. Although,
Nick Hornby would have loved that.
I'm sure he would, yeah. Now you do a lot with the Magic Expo in Blackpool. That's one of your sidelines, isn't it?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I'm a co-owner of a magic magazine which started 20 years ago as a hobby actually, and then it just became more successful. So that got me into the magic world really. I mean, I was slightly into it already, but I do the world's biggest magic convention is every February in Blackpool. So the Magic magazine has a stand there, so I go there and do lots of interviews with people for the magazine. So definitely involved in the magic, even though I'm not that bothered about performing it these days. There's a lot of nice characters in the magic world. There are a lot of quirky people there, and always gives me lots of ideas, and always tell me funny things that happen to them on stage or anywhere else for that matter. So it's quite good.
Yuri Geller involved, because you've got Yuri gave us the quote for the front. How did that come about?
Yuri Geller did a front cover interview with Magic Scene, which I did several years ago, and he was always such a lovely guy. I met a lot of sort of famous people, I guess, in the past, and they've got very big egos. And when I asked him if he would do an interview with us for the front cover of the magazine, he said, "Oh yeah, fine." And I said, "What about could you sign some spoons for us and we'll run a little competition?" And he said, "Oh no," he says, "Definitely, I'll do that. But why don't you run a competition, and whoever wins it, their family can come to my house, and I'll get a chef in, and I'll give them a tour because it's got lots of memorabilia there and things. And they'll come and have a meal with me and everything." They stopped all day, this family that went down, and it was amazing. He didn't have to do any of that, but he did, and he's such a lovely guy. And so when I got my first novel coming out, and it was revolved a bit about the magic world, I thought I'll just send it to Yuri, thinking I probably get 1,000 emails a day. And he started reading it straight away, sent him some chapters, and he absolutely loved it. So he just said, oh yeah, so if you want a quote or anything, yeah, let me know what, and I'll get one over to your publishers. And he did. And so that was really nice of him.
So what's next? What are you up to now?
Well, apart from my social media, and just finished my second one, doing some promotional stuff for that.
Tell us about the second book, Graham. Tell us what it's about.
Oh, the second book. Oh, it's very exciting, Taryn. You ready yet? It's called Confessions of an Invisible Man. And it's about a guy who's going to be invisible for exactly 7 days. Exactly, down to the very second. So he comes up with a plan. He knows he's going to be invisible. So he has to come up with a plan on what he's going to do for that week. And his main aim is to try and make the girl at work fall in love with him, who she doesn't even know him. He works in the kitchen, she works in admin, but he's had a crush on her for quite a while, and he's sort of secretly in love with her. But he's never said anything other than, have you finished with your plate or cup or whatever, because he just goes around collecting crockery after the lunch hour. So he decides he's going to try and make this girl fall in love with him in 7 days, which is not easy when you're invisible. And he's going to try and get £1 million, change his life, because he just thinks that's a good figure to aim for. And then he also wants to meet Elton John, who's his all-time favourite singer.
I'm going to stop you there before you give away the entire plot of the book.
And anyway, the big twist ending is... okay.
So that's out next month, so that will be fab.
Oh, it is. It's only a month.
It is.
So, isn't it?
Out next month. So if you're looking for a new rom-com, read Let's Hear It for the Boy, and then Confessions of an Invisible Man. And what we got after that? What's coming after that?
What, the next book, you mean?
Well, you got.
If you've dropped me by then, due to poor sales, you keep threatening me with every week. You're threatening me with that. Well, I've got another rom-com on the go, which I've just started. In fact, I'm sort of writing the screenplay and writing the book at the same time. I know it sounds a bit stupid, but that's what I've decided to do, because I've got a couple of film companies interested in 1 or 2 ideas. So I'm trying to make Kronos Publishing into the next huge publishing empire, Taryn, so that then you'll say, oh, Graham, here's some more money, take all my money. That's what you say. So I'm doing one called a rom-com called Love on the Ropes. It's one man grappling with internet dating. So it's about a guy who, his wife walks out with him on his birthday, I think he's 45 or something, and he wonders what to do with his life. And he gets embroiled in the world of wrestling because it's on his granddad's bucket list to see his grandson do some wrestling, whatever. So it's very funny, I think. And the people that have run the idea pass so far absolutely love it. So that is going to be my next one. How's it sounding, Taryn?
Very good. Yeah.
Is it sounding like big advanced type book?
Tenner.
Well, that's £5 more than last one, so I'll take it.
We'll be looking for that one spring, probably.
Sorry, I'm not. Connection's not great. Did you say 2 years' time? Yeah, should be about.
Spring. Have we got anything else going? Anything else you can tell us about?
Anything else I can tell you about? Well, apart from doing, I'm also writing a screenplay about the life of Kendo Nagasaki, the famous wrestler. Don't know if you will remember him, Tony, you're far too young, but a lot of people out there will probably remember him. The guy who dressed as a samurai warrior. All his life he wore a mask and never did a single interview. So it's his fantastic story.
Is that what kind of prompted you down the wrestling line with the next book?
No, it's actually Love on the Ropes. The book came first, and because I was thinking, oh, Kendo is going to mention Kendo Nagasaki. I thought, well, I'll see if Kendo Nagasaki is still alive. So I googled him. See, Google again, it's coming through into my work. I googled him, and he's still alive. So I sent an email to him, and he didn't even reply. His assistant sent me a reply, because he didn't even reply to his emails. Very secretive guy. I told him I thought he might, be interested in doing a forward for a book if I'm asked nicely. So that's how I got in touch with him. And his assistant got back to me and said, yes, he would be delighted to do a foreword for your book. You send it up when it's finished. And she said, have you, he's got his autobiography released recently. Have you ever done any TV writing or anything like that? Because we think it'd make a great movie. And I said, well, I've done a bit of writing in the past like that. So he sent me the book with his life story, and it was really brilliant. So that's how I got into that, really. So I've got lots going on, and constantly writing comedy as well, you know, my jokes, and writing my own ebooks for performers, which I write.
Did you say that there's a thing about people where they'll steal your jokes and you have to have kind of a joke book and they have to be registered in your name or something?
Well, originally when I was doing stand-up, I did this big show, and it was like a magic convention. There was like 3,000 people in the audience. A lot of them were performers. 2,000 were probably performers, so they come from all over the country. And I did my act, came off stage, and just loads of people kept coming up to me saying, I'm going to use those jokes in my act. And I thought, well, first of all, I thought it's really rude just to say you're going to steal somebody's act, because it was all original material. And because in my act, I've used other people's materials, but I always get in touch with them first and say, you've got a really good gag that would suit me because of this. Am I okay to use it? And once when you ask them, they're always really happy. You know, they always say, oh yeah, that'd be no problem at all. But people who just want to steal it, you cannot copyright a joke.
Right.
So that's the issue. So then I said to myself, right, well, if they're going to steal my act, I might as well sell it to them. So I started putting collections together of material that I'd used and then wasn't using anymore. And I'll put that into an ebook for performers. So I've been doing that now for about 15 years. So a lot of performers tend to be magicians and mind readers who want to put some comedy into their act, and they want a few one-liners. I put these ebooks together, they buy them, then they've got the rights then to use them in their act. But doing that, though, has also brought me some more work in, because then some of these performers say, oh, could you write me something specific about, you know, I'm performing in Bournemouth, for example, for a week. Could you come up with some lines about Bournemouth? So it's given me work like that. And then some people got in touch and said, oh, I'm going to do a tour. Would you help me with the full script and do the rehearsal and all that sort of thing? So by selling my material, has actually brought the other work in, and it's got me more widely known. You know, if you Google me, for example, and that's how the screenwriter guy got in touch with me, I think.
Fantastic. Oh, thank you for chatting to us today. Now, so remind us again about this brilliant blog that you've now finally written.
It's my new comedy cult, where I'm going to be writing. It's going to be comedy, guest blogs, and lots of things about me writing for Kronos Publishing, and how amazing you are, Taryn. You personally, as a person and a publisher. So I'm going to be posting 2 or 3 times every week, and hopefully it will be entertaining. I've sort of framed it as like I'm starting a comedy cult, and I'm looking for followers. So it just gives me a bit more of a comedy angle, and I've already got a few guest blogs lined up with people, and so it's just be entertaining, and I can just tell people my news about the writing and stuff. And
a plug for the link is?
It is funny-writer.com.
Brilliant. And
funny-writer.com.
Let's Hear It For The Boy is available from all good bookstores. It's available online. You can buy it from my website, and it's available in Kindle and any other format that you want it in. And then The Confessions of an Invisible Man is going to be out next month. So, Graham, thank you very much for your time.
Oh, thanks, Taryn.
All right, I'll speak to you soon.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.